Hi guys, thanks for tuning into this essence guide for Resto Shamans in Mythic Plus. So what is the best essence for Resto Shamans in Mythic Plus? Unfortunately there's no black or white answer for this question, as it's definitely going to change from dungeon to dungeon and for the different affixes. For example, the essences you're going to need for Shrine of the Storm are going to be completely different to that of, say, the Underrot on a high key. I would suggest getting familiar with a few strong essences so you can mix and match them accordingly. I will try and mention which essences would be most useful in certain situations in dungeons, and hopefully that can allow you to progress to the next key difficulty. So what are the healing essences? There are 11 in total and range from being quite strong to niche to just plain terrible. And although there's only probably one bad essence, and that being Conflict and Strife, which is from PvP, even that will have its uses in, say, a Quaking Week. However, as a general rule, I don't recommend leveling this essence or Vision of Perfection or Ripple in Space. I think there are better essences you can use that will overall improve your healing or perform a task better than these other three essences, and that's why I don't recommend leveling them. So that leaves us with 8 essences to talk about in detail, and let's firstly talk about the major traits, and I will briefly mention the minors as well. So firstly, let's discuss the Crucible of Flame. The only time I use this essence is in Shrine of the Storm, or when I genuinely think my single target damage will make a difference to the outcome of the dungeon. It is an essence that is multi-dimensional in the context. It can be used as a moderate single target heal, with an associated healing over time effect, or alternatively, you can use it on an enemy for a moderate damage over time effect, with an upfront damage component as well. Because Shaman's single target heals hit quite hard already, this is not a good single target heal for us. You should not take this as a tank healing essence, as our healing surges will almost always heal for more than 200% of the buffed Crucible of Flame ability. Any dungeon you require heavy single target healing or heavy AoE healing, then this essence is probably not the right one to use. I do use this as a major on Shrine of the Storm, as it gives a decent damage increase on priority targets. This is particularly useful on the last boss to help with the buff for extra damage. Add this to the fact that in Shrine you probably already take 1 or 2 of the Igneous Potential talents to increase your Lava Burst damage. It makes you an effective healer at hitting priority DPS targets. Aside from Shrine, I don't really use this essence as a major or minor in any dungeon, although I have trialled it on Siege of Prowess and it was quite useful. The next essence I wanted to discuss is Memory of Lucid Dreams. This is probably the best all-around essence, and I would recommend all less experienced healers to run this as a major in every dungeon. For any time you are not running this as a major, it should be one of your minors. Anytime you're going below 90% mana, you should be using your major Memory of Lucid Dreams on cooldown, as over the course of a dungeon, it will grant in excess of your entire mana pool back. Add this to the fact that it gives you leech and a verse buff, it's very strong. If you told me you were going to run this as a major in every dungeon, then I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think that's a completely reasonable choice. I think when you become better at mana management, this essence has less value. However, on a dungeon like Temple of Seth, you would probably always take this as your major on high keys. The last 2 bosses can be very punishing on mana management, and this essence will definitely help combat that, as you get to use it 2 or 3 times a fight on the higher keystones. Any dungeon you're struggling with mana management, I would suggest taking this as your major, and once you improve with that, you can drop it and just put it in the minor slot. I don't think there would be any time you wouldn't have this active as at least your minor. The next essence is the Well of Existence. Level 3 is gained by getting exalted with a Rust Bolt, which is a time-consuming task but worth it if you're serious about healing. I think this is the best major in a few dungeons, King's Rest being the most notable for the massive on-the-spot single-target healing. You can actually charge the well to full prior to fights in Mythic Plus, and then top them off in one hit of a button, and it prevents situations where they otherwise would have died. With the recent buffs to Resto Shaman Healing Rain and also the single target heals, it actually makes it even easier to charge the well, and I sometimes sacrifice damage purposefully on fights to overheal, especially with High Tide active, so I can charge the well for the danger abilities that are coming up. You can also get at least one pack Spirit Azurite trait, where in Ghost Will form you heal yourself. As when you're running between packs, you can get some decent charge on the Well of Existence, which is quite a handy tip to use. This is one of my favorite essences to run. I think it'll be active on high King's Rest and Freehold keys in the major slot. When I have 3 essences slots unlocked, I think I'll almost always have it running as a minor or maybe Vitality Conduit in its place, but one of those two will probably be active. The next essence I wanted to talk about was the Ever Rising Tide. Level 3 is gained by getting exalted with the Wave Blade, which is another grind, but it's worthwhile to optimize your healing and your healing toolkit in Mythic Plus. The major of this is just so powerful to overcome burst damage that is predictable, but you need to keep in mind that it will come at some mana cost, and if you're going to go in that fight, then it's probably not a great choice. Under Rot, you must run this as your major on high keys, as it will just make the fight so much easier if you time the use of it properly. It's useful on any large burst fights, such as Razan, Priestess Alunza, in a Taldazar, or even Overseer Korgus prior to the double Azurite shots, double Azurite rounds in Toldagor. I think it could be useful on some nasty trash packs in Fortified as well. I always use this as my major in Under Rot. Another useful essence is Lifebinder's Invocation. This is gained from Mythic Plus and is one of the easier rank 3 attainable essences. Don't be fooled by how easy it is to get though, it's actually very good. On average, it will do more healing than the other essences in and of itself. It has done up to 10% of my overall healing in high keys at rank 3. It's a good essence to use when your group is going to take numerous ticks of damage each that is predictable. It can be quite useful on bursting weeks to precast before killing large packs as well. I don't have any specific dungeons I always run this on, but I found it quite useful in Motherlode, Wakehurst Manor, TD on both the bosses and trash. The only downside of this essence is that it has a long cast time, so just like Ever Rising Tide, you'll need to plan for the upcoming damage, as during a high damage phase, if you try and cast the major, you may kill your team through lack of healing output. Vitality Conduit is a really good essence that most people will not take because they're scared it will not show up in their healing. In fact, on programs like Details, if you use a major on a target, it actually counts as the target's healing, which means you don't get credit for it. I'd encourage you to disable those HPS monitoring programs if things like that concern you though. It will be useful on heavy tank damage dungeons, with the major granting approximately 180 to 200k healing to the tank every 45 seconds. The offset of other targets losing health in the party to heal the tank is not really a big issue for the Resto Shaman, as one chain heal will heal everyone back to full. The only drawback about this essence is that if you don't quickly heal the other party members that are the health is being leached off to heal the tank, then you may run into trouble. At higher keys, particularly on Freehold, on the first and second bosses, if you're leeching life off one of the melee players onto the tank, it may actually cause the DPS player to get one-shot by the RNG mechanics, such as Azurite Powder Shot from Sky Captain Krag or Powder Shot from Captain Eudora. I think this essence is useful on mainly fortified weeks where the tank is taking heavy single target damage. Worldbane Resonance may be useful if 3 or 4 other players in the party are also using it and they have nothing better to run, otherwise this will not be a good essence. Don't ever use it if you're the only person in the party with it, as pretty much every other essence, including Conflict and Strife, will be stronger. I use all of the 6 essences I previously discussed, and I think overall, if you wanted me to tell you what are the 2 or 3 best essences to use, I would say in the major slot, use Memory of Dreams. In the first minor slot, use Ever Rising Tide, and in the second, I would use the Well of Existence. That does not apply for every dungeon, and obviously there are some differences as I discussed previously, but if you just wanted the easiest time healing and to be able to sustain a good output, then they would be the essences that I recommend, especially for newer players. Obviously I haven't discussed Artifice of Time, it's because I don't have it, I haven't used it yet. I can definitely see that being a very useful essence, especially as the major ability. I'd be very keen to hear what other people thought about that. I just haven't had the time to level that, and I don't really enjoy doing PvP in WoW. I may get stuck into it at some stage, and I'll try and let everyone know, but I'd be very happy to hear from other Resto Shamans that are doing high keys, whether that's a useful essence for them. Just quickly onto the buffs from the recent 8.2 patch. My gameplay has definitely changed a little bit. I'm casting Healing Rain a fair bit more now, and I've even got one of the Azerite traits, Overflowing Shores. I think Healing Rain is worth healing, especially if you're using the Well of Existence, as not only it charges that, but it's good AoE healing now. So that is just one thing that's changed about my gameplay. The other quick update I'd like to give you guys is, in my opinion, Mastery is now a fair bit stronger than Versatility in Mythic Plus. It may have always been, and I've just discovered that. But I just think it's very useful in healing people from low health to high health in those dangerous situations. So I'm using sort of equal or even a little bit more mastery than versatility on my Resto Shaman these days. Anyway, I hope this was a useful guide for you. Hit me up in the comments section below. And as always, very happy to take questions. And if you've got any tips or tricks for me, be more than happy to hear them as well.